What if the Dragonborn, savior of Skyrim, had never used a weapon? Or better yet, never needed a weapon, because his two hands were just that powerful. And no, I'm not talking about punching. I'm talking about creating fireballs at will to burn enemies to a crisp, freezing any opponent solid with nothing more than your voice, spawning any and all creatures at the heart's desire, pulling ridiculously strong swords out of thin air, and much, much more. Can you beat Skyrim using only magic? Anyways, welcome to Skyrim. The rules for this challenge are pretty simple. I can only attack using magic. Spells, shouts, and staves all fall under this magic category. Now, let's get started. When creating my character, I of course chose the High Elf race because they have magic bonuses. And I'm just now realizing that my character kinda looks like a Dormammu worshipper from Doctor Strange, which I assure you is completely accidental, but is actually very fitting. I decided to name my character Magic Man because I'm a man and I use magic. I know, creativity really isn't my strong suit. Now that my character was created, we can focus on escaping Helgen. I chose to escape with Ralof, which ended up being a good choice. I was able to just hide behind him the whole time while he absolutely destroyed the Imperial guards, showing them no mercy. Once I had escaped Helgen, I headed straight to Riverwood, where I met Faendal in all of his glory. I decided that this beautiful specimen was going to be my companion, so I set out on my journey with my newfound elf friend. By the way, it's been a few years since I've played Skyrim. With that said, I had completely forgotten that you start off with a few base spells like the Flames and Heal spell. It wasn't until after my trip to Whiterun that I realized that I had these spells in my arsenal and could actually attack. So before going to retrieve the Dragonstone, I decided to head to the College of Winterhold, where I would hopefully be able to increase my mage skills. On my way there, I ran into a giant camp. I for some reason decided to attack something that was way higher level than me, and ended up paying the price for it. The giant literally smacked me into orbit with nothing but a flick of his wrist. Don't worry though, because I will get my revenge against this giant in the future. I swear on it. Now, I finally made it to the college. I'm not going to go over everything I did here at the college, so here's a summary of what I got to prepare me for this run. I received some novice mage clothing, which boosted my magicka a few different ways. I unlocked a few new spells, most of which not very helpful, except for one, which was Fireball. I also got some staves, but I completely forgot that they need soul charges, so I burned through all of their charges, leaving them useless until I could charge them back up again. Quick note here, upon my entrance, the guide was trying to light up the beacons along the walkway. I say tried because she actually missed one of the times and hit Faendal in the head. So poor Faendal had to walk around with a glowing blue ball stuck to him, which I imagine was quite embarrassing. Now that I could actually pass as a mage and not just some pathetic wannabe, I was off to Bleak Falls Barrow. This dungeon was an absolute breeze. These low-level Draugrs stood no chance against my flame spell and Fondal's arrows. Even the final boss went down with no trouble whatsoever, so I was able to retrieve the Dragonstone with ease. Immediately upon my return to Whiterun, I was set out on another quest to protect the guards from the dragon. Oh boy, our first dragon kill, isn't this exciting, Faendal? Right before the boss, I had unlocked the Destruction Dual Casting spell, which boosts effects of destruction spells when using the same spell in both hands. This also changes the animation, so now my character creates one big fireball instead of just two smaller ones. And, as you know, the bigger the fireball, the better. I was ready to take on this beast, using only the fire my hands produced. Maybe not so ready. No, just kidding, the fight was easy. All I had to do was cowardly hide behind the guards while they took the brunt of the damage, and occasionally throw a fireball or two. I had so far mainly used my flame spell throughout this run because it deals splash damage, costs way less magicka than the firebolt spell, and is a no skill needed type of spell where you can just spray without thought. However, in situations like these, the fireball spell was much better because it has infinite range and deals a good amount of damage too. Plus, I don't have to worry about splash damage since there's only one enemy. So the dragon went down with relative ease, but not before trying to give me a piggyback ride? Don't question it! Anyways, now me and Faendal were off to see the Greybeards on High Hrothgar. As you probably know, it's a long way there, since, it's the tallest mountain in the game. So I stole a horse from a bandit camp to try and save time. This wasn't a smart decision though, because horseback riding is completely broken in this game. Look, Faendal, it's a flying horse! Yeah, so needless to say, I had to leave my horse behind. Once I finally got to the Greybeards at High Hrothgar, I went through their trials and learned how to shout. And what a coincidence that my very next mission happened to be located right next to this giant camp. I was back to take revenge on the giant who sent me flying through the sky, but this time, I was ready. I had come prepared, and me and Faendal were finally strong enough to take on this beast once and for all. Me and Faendal, the perfect balance of flames and arrows, were taking the fight to the giant. But then, halfway through our battle, poor Faendal was sent to the heavens. And when I say sent to the heavens, I mean literally sent flying through the sky, straight into the heavens. Faendal, my beloved friend, who'd stuck with me through thick and thin, was gone forever. That feeling of sadness I felt was soon replaced by rage. I came at that giant with a new sense of strength, a feeling of vengeance coursing through my veins. I will avenge you, Faendal, whatever the cost. Do you know what I did to that sorry little giant? I burnt him to a crisp, teabagged him, and then I took his toe. Some may say that stealing his toe is completely unnecessary, but I think it was totally worth it. But now is not the time for puns, because would you look at that, it's Faendal, back from the dead. How'd you get over there? So me and Faendal set out on our venture once more, ready to face the dangers ahead and retrieve the horn of Jurgen Windcaller. This was just another dungeon with a bunch of Draugr and skeletons that was more time-consuming than difficult. I eventually cleared all of Ustengrav, only to find that the horn was missing and Delphine had beaten me to it. Before going back to Riverwood to confront Delphine, I of course had to mess with Faendal a little bit by closing and locking him inside this trap. But the literal second I turned my back for, Faendal had already escaped. That's some Batman level stuff, Faendal. I'm impressed. Getting back to Riverwood, I had a chat with Delphine and we all set off to find out why dragons were coming back to life in Skyrim. This was my second dragon fight and was even easier than the first one. The dragon just refused to even acknowledge my presence, turning his full attention to Delphine instead. I was more than happy about this because it meant I could ignite the dragon and burn him to bits without having to worry about my safety whatsoever. After this, we still didn't know very much about the dragon resurrections, so I had to go undercover at a Thalmor party to find more info. Since I was stupid and didn't sneak my mage robes into the party, all I had was party clothes to wear while taking on the Thalmor. Now look, mage builds heavily rely on robes and hood to boost magicka, which in other words meant I stood little to no chance. Well, what did I do? I completely cheesed it by sprinting through all of the fights, grabbing the info I needed, and getting the heck out of there. Now that I had the info I needed, I headed back to Delphine again in Riverwood. Upon entering Riverwood, I ran into a group of cultists that tried to kill me. They went down with relative ease and that was that, so why am I telling you this? Well, I was able to take the robes they were wearing, which are not only better than my current robes stat-wise, but also look way cooler too. I mean, look at that, it has a freaking golden dragon for a shoulder pad. After talking to Delphine, she sends us on yet another quest, this time to track down Esbern. Retrieving Esbern was yet another mission that failed to provide much difficulty, and I was able to get him from Riften and bring him back to Delphine with no trouble, other than casually blowing myself up from time to time. So far, in terms of leveling up, I had focused on putting most of my skill points into magicka. I did put some into health because that's pretty much essential no matter what build you're making, but again the majority of those points went into magicka because that's where all of my damage is coming from. As for the skill tree, I had focused primarily on the destruction perks so far. I completely ignored both shock and ice spell upgrades and focused on upgrading fire spells because that's all I was using at the moment. At this time in the story, I'm only level 6, which I believe is lower than average and is going to make fights and enemies more difficult moving forward. Once I got back to Delphine, us four were off to find Alduin's wall in hopes of finding a way to defeat him. We split up. Delphine and Esbern went together, and me and Faendal went together. All was going well, until we ran into a group of enemies. Remember how the flame spell deals splash damage? Well, I was taking aim with my fire, and, well, Faendal got caught in the crossfire, and died by my hand. I had accidentally murdered my beloved friend. In my state of rage, I ended up accidentally murdering my horse too just a few seconds later. My fallen companions deserved a proper funeral. They deserved to be cremated. I left their ashes to be whisked away in the wind, knowing they were now in a better place. Anyways, now is not the time for mourning, because there was now another dragon after me. Without a follower, I was essentially screwed because the dragon would only be targeting me now, and I would have no means of defending myself when I ran out of magicka. So after running out of magicka, I tried to take cover in a house where it would be safe to regenerate. Unfortunately, the dragon predicted this and landed right on top of me. He ate me. Trying this a second time, I was successful. However, there is a guy inside this house who's threatening me if I don't leave. But no worries, I am now a professional murderer and I know how to kill and hide a body. Trust me, no one is finding this. Once my magicka had replenished, I went back outside to unload another round of fireballs on the dragon. Guess what? Delphine and Esbern showed up to help me in the fight, and we slayed the dragon together. We then headed off to read Alduin's wall to find that there was in fact a shout I could use against Alduin to help me kill him. I talked to Paarthurnax at the Throat of the World, where he informed me that there was an Elder Scroll to teach me the Dragonrend shout. The only problem is the Elder Scroll is locked deep inside of a dwarven ruin. Before going to retrieve the Elder Scroll though, I realized that I had a fully charged Staff of Zombies. This staff revives a dead body for 60 seconds. Great, so why am I telling you this? Well, theoretically, I could bring my beloved friend and follower Faendal back to life. It would only be for 60 seconds, but a minute of Faendal is better than nothing. So I used console commands to teleport to his location, and I successfully brought him back to life. Wait, he's not here. It's almost like somebody burned his dead body until he was nothing more than a pile of ashes. Well, once I had come to terms with the fact that Faendal wasn't coming back, I realized that this was a job for Lydia. So I traveled to Whiterun, hired Lydia as my new follower, and we set off to the Dwarven Ruin to find the Elder Scroll. Now, here's where things start getting tricky during this run. One full bar of magicka is now not enough to take out a group of enemies. And since Lydia is no help, once I ran out of magicka, I'm completely helpless until it regenerates. To avoid a quick death while I could do nothing to defend myself, I had to use the world's geometry to shield me from enemies while my magicka recharged. This isn't to say that I hadn't done this previously during the run, but by now it had been taken to a whole new level. From hiding behind little buildings and decorations, to jumping and running behind objects to get out of the way of swinging enemies, I had to do it all. Now, this was of course only when I actually had to fight enemies. Most of the time, I would still completely cheese it by sprinting through and avoid as many enemies as possible. Call me a coward, but I got the Elder Scroll using nothing but a pathetic magic bar that refused to regenerate quickly, and, well, Lydia, who absolutely refused to use a single one of her 3 total brain cells. Now that I had the Elder Scroll, I then learned the Dragonrend shout, and immediately after, Alduin attacks. Now look, I know I was dissing Lydia earlier, but dang does she make a good human shield. Between me, Lydia, and Paarthurnax, we were able to whittle down a good amount of Alduin's health without much effort at all. This was until Lydia was defeated, leaving just Parthenax and me still standing. Parthenax was a huge help while on the ground. He was great at being a shield for me, and did a decent amount of damage with his own fire breath. However, Parthenax takes flight every now and then, basically abandoning me for a little while to fend for myself against Alduin. So I had to take cover while Parthenax was in the air, and then I could freely attack Alduin when Parthenax had landed and was taking the blows. We had almost defeated Alduin together, until Parthenax had been defeated, leaving just me and Alduin still standing. Alduin's full attention was on me. I had an empty magicka bar, and as if that's not enough, even meteors were falling out of the sky and destroying my health bar. How did I take on Alduin 1v1? Most of the time I took cover behind the rocks, where I was safe to use potions and regenerate health and magicka. Then I would peek out, hit Alduin with a fireball or two and use Dragon Rend, take cover again, and repeat the process. Eventually, Alduin was defeated for the first time, and I was able to continue on with the story. One peace treaty, dragon trapping, and riding said dragon later, I was in Skuldafn and ready to end Alduin once and for all. The Draugr were all extremely easy in this area and posed no threat whatsoever. There were a few dragons, but again all I had to do was use the world's geometry to my advantage. Once we get to the portal of Celestheim, there is unfortunately a dragon priest guarding the entrance. Now look, my mage robes offer 0 armor whatsoever. And well, as I said earlier, they're also pretty much essential for a mage build. So the dragon priest was able to absolutely melt my health bar and I would die in a second or two. Using the structures around me was kind of impossible because the second I peeked the corner to deal any damage, I would be absolutely annihilated. Then I had a crazy idea. What if I used my unrelenting force shout to knock the dragon priest off the ledge and let him die from fall damage? Well, that was a good idea, but the dragon priest just wouldn't fall over the ledge for some reason, rendering that strategy useless. That left me with the only possible option of using the structures for cover, which hadn't worked well for me this far. I died, and I died, but I eventually figured out the dragon priest's timing and was actually able to bait his attacks. All was going well until about halfway through his health bar when I tried using my unrelenting force shout again. This time it somehow worked, and the dragon priest plummeted to his death. I stole his mask and his staff, and I was finally prepared to take on Alduin. I am the world's most powerful mage. I am Skyrim's savior, and I am the Dragonborn. I was Alduin's bane, and I was ready to end him once and for all. I threw everything I had at Alduin. Fireballs, staves, potions, you name it. I had saved up all of my power until this very moment, and I was ready to use it all. It was a long and hard fight, but we overpowered Alduin and ended him for good. This was all for you, Faendal. Now, you can finally rest in peace knowing our mission had been accomplished and that you can beat Skyrim using only magic.